it's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Pablo Johnny Fonseca, DDS. He came to the U.S. from Cuba after attending dental school at age 21. Upon arriving, he immediately decided to continue studying dentistry. He attended the University of Florida, where he got a Bachelor of Science in Microbiology. He then went to dental school at Indiana University, where he got his Doctor of Dental Surgery degree in '89. Upon graduation, he returned to Miami, where he did a general practice residency program at Mount Sinai Medical Center. While on his residency program, he opened his first dental practice, working evenings and weekends. Since then, he has opened 3 dental practices from scratch, and he attributes his success to choosing great locations, owning the real estate, working hard, and providing 24 hours emergency service. He enjoys taking dental courses and attending dental conventions in the U.S. and other countries. He volunteers his time at the Florida Institute for Advanced Dental Education, also known as Community Smiles, and does charity work at the Baptist Dental Mobile Unit once a year. He is past president of the Miami Dade Dental Society and continues being involved in organized dentistry. Besides dentistry, he's passionate about networking and politics, and on the personal side, he has a son who is in law school, and he enjoys traveling and cruising. My Dentist in Miami was founded in '89 with the vision of creating a dental practice that treats every patient with dignity and first-rate dental care. My Dentist Miami's dental staff is highly trained, exceptional friendly, modern facility. I could go on and on. I actually, we've met before when I'm down there in Fort Lauderdale. Are you in Fort Lauderdale or Miami right now?
No, I'm in Miami.
You're in Miami, but I think when we met, was it in Fort Lauderdale or?
Fort Lauderdale, a couple of times in Fort Lauderdale, yes.
Yeah, and before we start talking about anything, the thing that's on all the dentists' minds that I want to ask you first is, you and I are old school. I'm going to turn 58 next month. How old are you up to, Johnny?
I'm older than you. I'm 61.
61? Well, you look younger than me and you have hair, so you're the lucky one here. But, you know, when you and I were in dental school, they told us that, you know, Streptococcus mutans was around the corner. It'll be vaccinated, and P. gingivalis is going to be vaccinated. When you and I got our first flu shots, they go, well, this is just for influenza, but the vaccine for the common cold won't be for next year or another year, another year. I mean, they even said at Creighton University that Upjohn Pharmaceuticals cured male pattern baldness with Midoxidil. That was in 1980,
Wait.
Johnny. How much hair do you see up there now? So my question to you succinctly is the United States, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and the United States just started a vaccine trial.
Right.
And my question is, would you take that trial vaccine today? If they drove up to your office and said, hey, can we stick that in your arm, what would you say? What would you do?
I wouldn't take it today. I would wait a little bit until at least a couple of months until enough people have taken it, make sure it's completely safe, and then I will take it myself. On the meantime, I will protect, with the PPE and, follow the proper precautions. But no, I wouldn't take the vaccine right away.
And I also know that Cuba is a very emotional topic. When I'm with my mom and my 2 sisters that are nuns, I try not to bring up anything. I don't want to bring up the Pope, but they're big into vaccines, and in fact, they have a treatment for lung cancer. I watched a whole deal on it, and there's but being from Cuba, being into microbiology, do you think Cuba might possibly? I mean, it sounds like they are ahead of us on vaccines and lung cancer. Are you hearing a different approach to dentistry in the pandemic in Cuba versus Miami?
Yes. From what I know, there's a lot of misinformation about Cuba. The information that they're trying to put outside is that they have the best doctor, the best dentist, the best medicine. That's not true. They are 100 years behind us pretty much on everything. That's what they're trying to put on the news. Oh, you like Coke? I like Coke too. So no, I think they're way behind us. But in terms of the precautions that they're following, they're very poor on infection control. And talk about dentists. Some of them, they don't even have gloves to work with gloves. So the problem is there's a scarcity of everything. Dental products, PPEs, everything, equipment, they have nothing.
So when's the last time you've been back to Cuba?
I was in Cuba a couple of years ago. I went there for a weekend.
And was it on Southwest Airlines?
No,
Because
I
I
went
know
on American.
American. Because I
Yeah,
noticed
direct
it's
flight.
open back up.
Yeah,
So
the
you came here at age 21. Was that the first time you'd been back? Just 2 years ago?
No, I went back for the first time in 2003 after being in this country for 23 years. And I almost cried because it looked like, when I left, it was bad, but now it's worse. And I actually had the opportunity to go into a dental office in Cuba. Most of the dental offices in Cuba are government based and government operated. There is very few private enterprises in Cuba. And I took some products to my family, like anesthesia, composites, amalgam, some things for my family. While I was there, I went with one of my family members to a dental clinic. Actually, she was seen by one of my friends that graduated with me in Cuba. And the conditions, they were terrible. I mean, the dental equipment, they didn't have a saliva ejector, they didn't have a current light, the hand pieces, they don't sterilize hand pieces. They just swipe it down with alcohol and they move it from one dentist to the other. Is to me, is way, way below a standard of care.
So you have crushed it. You've always been successful. I mean, you've opened up 3 dental practices from scratch. I was so glad to get you on because last night I was talking to a podcast, the Dental Student Vibes Network, and they're in Brandon, which I guess up by Tampa.
Yes.
Probably what is that, about a 3-hour drive from you?
A couple hours, yes.
Couple hours. And what would you tell these people? They were juniors in dental school and seniors, and you and I have gone through some rough times but we didn't graduate from dental school in the middle of a pandemic. What would you tell succinctly? This is right now. Tomorrow is it's August 7/29. It's July 29th, and a month ago we had 6,000 dental kids graduate from dental school. They're given their diploma and then thrown out the door in the middle of a pandemic. And what would you tell those kids?
Well, right now, unfortunately, it's not the time to open a new dental office. I opened my third dental office back in December, and I have, the financial capacity because I have other offices running, plus I've been a dentist for a while. But if I have opened my last office that I opened in December without having that, I will probably be out of business because business is very slow right now. So what I would recommend for them is to work for somebody else for a little while until things get better. I believe things are going to get much better by the end of the year. Once the vaccine is developed and we have everything under control, and then they can think about either purchasing a practice or opening a practice from scratch like the way I do it, but no at the present time, not right now.
And you never know in America, the news. I mean, you never know what's the truth and not truth. But they always try to make out Florida as a hot spot for the pandemic. And I don't know if it's just because, well, number one, Florida is one of the most populous states. I mean, New York, Florida, Texas, and California. I mean, what is that, a quarter of America? So I know you got a lot of people there. But how would you describe the current status of the pandemic in Miami right now?
According to the news, they're doing a lot of testing, and 20% of the people being tested are positive in the county Miami Dade. That's where I live. And on the personal side, I actually, until about a month ago, I didn't know anybody that have COVID. Like everybody was talking about COVID. I don't know anybody have COVID. Now I do know a lot of people that have COVID, including some family members.
Yeah, I just talked to a nurse yesterday, and she now has 2 fellow colleague nurses whose husbands have it. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's getting closer and closer to home. So how long were you closed? And I know it's for the international listeners. I know you think of United States of America as a country, but it's really 50 states, and all the states are different. Arizona, we had to close down from St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, to Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. Was that about the range you were shut down?
Yes, we were shut down by the governor like between March and May, a couple of months. but I was never shut down completely because one of my biggest strengths is dental emergencies, and we were allowed to take dental emergencies. So during that time, when everybody was closed, actually, I was seeing more dental emergencies than usual because I was getting, the flow from other dentists that were closed and they were afraid to see patients.
Well, Johnny, I want you to talk to that because I know we've had this conversation before, and it's a big pet peeve of mine, and that is most dentists don't like emergency patients because they think you put it off to the last minute. It would have been a cavity 5 years ago, and now you're just calling me up and you're wanting in today, and I got regular clients. I'm scheduled 2 weeks out, and they just generally have the majority of dentists have a very bad attitude about these emergency patients, In fact, when I was at the Pankey Institute, they wrote down the A, B, C, D, F patients, and the A were the perfect ones. Those are the only ones you want. And man, if you just walk into an office with an emergency, you haven't had your teeth cleaned in 5 years, they say, they need gum disease. I mean, I always thought, well, I'm a fireman. I don't care if the fire's I don't care if you call me up and I get there and it's your dog house or the whole house. I mean, why do they have a bad attitude about emergencies, and why do you not?
Well, it's a little inconvenience for some people. For me, it's not. I love dental emergencies. You call me anytime, 24 hours a day, I will send you within the hour myself. I don't have an associate. I do it myself. I live a couple of blocks from one of my offices. So, I mean, it's inconvenience. I may wake up like 2 a.m, go to my office, take care of the emergency, but I do it for marketing. First of all, when emergency calls me, they will pay you anything. They want to get out of pain. So money-wise, it's good. And some of those people, they have neglected dental problems for a while, so they have a lot of problems. So then they become your patients. And then I not only got a new patient, but I got a patient that have a lot of things to do. And even I see patients from other dentists that say, well, I call my dentist, I've been going there for 10 years, he doesn't even answer the phone. I called you out of the blue because I saw you advertise me. You don't know me, you saw me within the hour, you got a metal pain. You know what? I'm going to become your patient now. So it has been working for me, for all these years. So that's what I love it.
So I know what all the girls are thinking. Johnny, are you afraid you're going to go down there at 2 a.m. and get robbed or shot?
Well, I carry a gun for myself, but...
Do you seriously? Do you seriously carry?
I do. I conceal a permit, but I never had a problem, no. And it's pretty safe, the area where I live and where my office are. So, no, I haven't had any problems at all.
And another big rap on emergency patients is that they're just, they're not good patients. Why? Why? Where does that come from? Why do people? And then the other one, Johnny, we'll answer this one first. A lot of people say, well, they're only saying they have an emergency because they want prescription Vicodin narcotics. So they're just a bunch of druggies calling you up for a pain pill, and they're not good people and they're not good patients.
Right. Well, first of all, I don't prescribe anything. If they want a prescription, that's not the patient for me. I say, I have to see you. If you have a pain, it's going to be either extraction or a root canal. There's no other choice. So I tell them upfront, what they need and how much they expect to pay. But they say, no, can you give me a prescription in the morning? No, I'm sorry, I don't do that. If you want to be seen, I see you, but otherwise you got to look for somebody else. Because you're right. There are a lot of people that are looking for drugs.
And the thing is, it's really easy for two old dogs like us that we know we're the dentist and we're wagging the patient's tail. But when you're 25 years old, older people manipulate you and get you to do things you don't like. And when you're a young kid, I guarantee you the biggest problems you have from 25 to 35 is because the patient talked you into something you didn't even want to do. That's not a problem with old dogs. That's a problem with new dogs. And the same thing I've always done what Johnny just said. They say, well, I need pain pill. Well, if you need pain pill, that's fine, but I know you're going to need an extraction or a root canal. Oh, no, I'm in so much pain I can't have treatment. I can't have an extraction or a root canal. I just want a pain pill. Well, that doesn't even make sense. And my office policy is we will never give you a prescription for anything unless first we caused something to happen. I mean, it's one thing. I can explain to the board why I gave you a pain pill after an extraction or a root canal, but I can't explain to the board why I gave you a prescription and I didn't do anything but shake your hand or talk to you on the phone. So just don't give pain pills, because if they're really so these young kids, it's like, well, she's in a lot of pain, but she can't do it till Friday, and they believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids, that is not. If I was in a lot of pain, I would go to the emergency room, and they say, well, I couldn't go to the. I've been to the emergency room 3 times for a lot of pain. I've had 3 kidney stones, and they're about 10 years apart, and I've never had dental pain, but the kidney stone's a lot of pain. But if you're in a lot of pain, you go to the emergency room because you got a kidney stone. You don't sit there and say, well, I'm busy and I can't go there till Thursday. Well, then you never had a kidney stone. Have you ever had a kidney stone before?
No.
Oh my God! This is how embarrassing it is. First time I had when I was 30, and I drove to Chandler Hospital deal, and I walk in there, and this young little doctor, she couldn't have been 25. She could have been 5 foot tall. And she looks at me. She goes, "Oh, you poor thing. You have a kidney stone." And I said, "How would you know that?" She goes, "It's the only thing that makes a grown man cry." And I thought, I'm crying, and I looked down my shirt. I mean, it was wet. Wow. I mean, I literally thought someone had stabbed me right in the kidney. So you and I both agree that dental emergency is great. And you know what's really funny? You know who they think the greatest patient is? Mrs. Wimpleton, who comes every 3 months and brushes and flosses every morning and every night. My God, you've seen her 4 times a year for a decade, and you never even done anything on her. You know what I mean? But that person who hasn't been to the dentist 5 years, I mean, it's like 2 extractions, 4 quads of root planing, a root canal, fillings, crowns. I mean, from a monetary deal, I think they're the greatest patients. But my profession, half of them don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah. Another thing that I learned early during my profession, it was like when you see an emergency patient, you have to tell them what they need, how much it costs, and collect the money. Because once you give them the anesthesia and you get them out of pain, they think it's too expensive. So it may sound a little cruel, but I learned my lesson.
Yeah, that is great. So when we look at competition, I mean, Florida has been opening up a lot of dental schools. I mean, it seems like every time I come down there,
yes.
How many dental schools are you up to now? I mean,
we are to 3.
3?
Yes.
And so that's University of Gainesville, Nova in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, and the other one is, I think it's called Lexicon
in Brandon.
Yeah.
So that's 3. So you've been practicing there for 3 decades. Would you say it's more competitive in Miami today and harder for a dentist to make a living than when you started 30 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's way, way more competitive. That's where you have to differentiate somehow, from the other people, because there is a dentist in every corner. And besides the 3 dental schools that we have in Florida, we have a lot of people coming from other states because we have a great weather, and we have a lot of international dentists coming, from Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, everywhere, that come here. They get the license, and then they stay here because South Florida is similar to their countries.
And do you think that's a good thing or not?
It's a good thing for them, but for dentists in general, it's more competition.
So it sounds like when Venezuela collapsed, I mean, Venezuela's economy collapsed, and in South America, I mean, you got the big country Mexico. That's 100 million people. Brazil's twice as big, 200 million people. But you have 5 countries of 50 million people: Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Chile. And Venezuela collapsed, and I have heard so many Venezuelan dentists ended up in Miami trying to get jobs as dental assistants. Have you seen that?
I had all my staff are dentists from Venezuela.
You what?
All my staff are dentists from Venezuela.
Yeah,
my assistant is a dentist from Venezuela. My hygienist is a dentist from Venezuela. My secretary is a dentist from Venezuela. and they're very good workers.
And we didn't set this up, did we? You didn't set me up this question, did you? I just asked you this question. I mean, Dentaltown is so cool, but so is that a really cool thing to have all these Venezuelan dentists coming?
Yeah, you don't have to train them; they already know.
Yeah, I talked to a dentist in Miami. He said, my God, I've always wanted to do a Invisalign, but when a Venezuela orthodontist showed up and said she'd work in my office for $20 an hour, I just gave her a room. And he goes, my hygienist wants $40 an hour and does about $100 an hour in cleanings, exams, and x-rays. And my Venezuelan orthodontist gets paid $20 an hour, and she's doing all my Invisalign cases. He goes, per hour, she's 4 times better than my hygienist for half the price.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, my God, it makes me want to move to Miami.
It's a great deal. And we have dentists from Venezuela, from Colombia. They're very good. We have from Cuba that they're working as a staff because they don't have a license. And some people want to continue and get their license, but some people, they just want to, work in a dental office in any position.
So some dentists are always asking this. They're say they just graduated from dental school. They wanted to be an endodontist. They didn't get accepted to endo school or specialty school or whatever. And the Caribbean is filled with these. I mean, Dominican Republic has 11 dental schools. What would you say to someone who says, "Well, if I couldn't get into pediatric dentistry in the United States, but I got accepted in Grenada," what would you tell them?
I don't have enough information, to advise them one way or the other. The only country that I know that have very good dental programs is Colombia and Costa Rica. But the rest, I don't know enough to let anybody know if it's a great deal or not.
And have you been to those 2 countries, Costa Rica and
Yes.
Colombia?
Yes.
And which one would you, if you had to retire in one of those countries for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I tell you a story. 2 years ago, I was about to sell everything and move to Colombia, to retire in Colombia. I love Colombia. I go to Colombia twice a year. I have a lot of friends over there. I go to dental conventions over there, and life is great. It's great. Over there, I live like a king.
So if you came from Cuba to Miami, how did you discover Colombia?
Through the women's. They have beautiful women's.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one ugly girl in South America, and they haven't found her yet. They're still looking for her. Do you have any idea where she might be?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. And Brazil is another. It's just so fun. What I like the most about the Latin culture is they're just so much more relaxed and happy.
Yeah.
And when you go, and Americans don't get it, but I get it because I've lectured in 50 countries, and not just one time. I mean, most of those I've lectured several times. But when you go to lecture in Tokyo and Korea and Germany, it's not a bunch of happy people. I mean, it's just they're stressed out of their mind. And then I was lecturing in Kathmandu. And everybody's always giggling. Everybody's laughing. Everybody, the dentist, the people. I mean, Kathmandu probably has more happiness than all of South Korea and Japan and Germany combined. I mean, some cultures are just so much. I don't think people realize that if you've never left your country, you have nothing to compare it to. But my God, my boys picked on it real fast. I remember when they were little, Eric would say to me, he goes, "Dad, they're poor and they can't afford to buy a trampoline, but they have more. They seem to have more fun just kicking a ball in the street." I said, "Yeah, a trampoline's not going to make you happy. It's, are you having fun with your friends?
Right.
And you're either having fun with your friends, or not."
Have you ever given any lectures in Colombia?
I have not lectured in Colombia, but you set it up. I will be there.
That's one country you have to go. I'll once this is over, I'm going to make it happen.
All right. Yeah, my goal, in fact, August 4th is my 30-year anniversary of lecturing. And it's so funny because I was born and raised in Kansas. So my first lecture, I wanted to lecture in New York City because I just wanted to go to New York City. and I wanted to meet dentists there. And so I set up my own lecture. I had no idea that 30 years later, I'd been to 50 countries. And my goal has always been to lecture in all of them just because that is my number one thing. And my boys will all tell you that they learn more traveling to different countries with dad than they did in all their college days. And then I got two patients that, that started Insight. And I said to him, you're just two farm boys from Iowa. How did you get the insight for Insight? And he goes, well, we were military brats. And so every 3 years we were in a different country. And me and my brother, we'd lay there in our bunk beds thinking, well, everything's the same here, but they're poor. What's the difference between the last country? And after 3 or 4 countries, they figured out all macroeconomics. I mean, they just figured it out by, it's the same people. Why is it so different? And it's the details of government and banking and insurance and financing and healthcare and all that. So how many locations do you have now?
Right now I have 2. I sold one of my locations about 5 years ago. Now I have 2. I'm in the process of selling another one. I'm just going to stay with one and, slow down a little bit. So I'm getting old.
And in those 30 years, give me the percentage of DSO penetration when you started versus now. Like what percent of the market was it when you started and what percent of the market is it now?
Well, when I started, there was none. It was non-existent. And now I would say it's about 20%, at least here in Miami. Some of them, you don't realize they are DSO because they acquire the practices and they stay with the same name. So you don't know that they have been acquired, but I would say, anywhere from 15 to 20% of the practices, big practices, they usually only acquire like practice that produce more than $1 million.
And do you think this statement is true or false? Like when I graduated May 11 and I had my own office up by September 21, it seems like back then people would get out of school and within a year or two, they'd kind of doing their own thing. It seems like nowadays they become an employee for longer and longer and longer. I mean, it's not routine to see these kids waiting 5-6 years before they open up their own. Do you see that or not really?
Yes, I do see that a lot. I don't see how they do it. I couldn't work for anybody. That's just my personality. But yes, you're absolutely right. Now, a lot of people either work for corporate dentistry or they become associates, in a private practice, with a solo practitioner. Yes.
And when they come out of school, I love their enthusiasm. They're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they want to learn endo and implants and Invisalign. They want to learn it all. But they got $400,000 of student loans. Do you think some dental procedures are more profitable than other? And, like some of them want to be a cosmetic dentist and do veneers and movie star stuff and all that. But I always wonder, what if you had to aim her at the top 3 choices where you could make some money at this and pay your student loans back, what would your top 3 choices be?
One would be endodontist, root canals. That would be my top choice. My other top choice would be dental implants, even though right now, it seems like everybody's doing dental implants. Orthodontist is still a good profession because everybody want to have straight teeth, even though there is like an oversupply of orthodontists. But yeah, I would say those are, but endodontist and of course oral surgeon. Oral surgeon is God. Like you have to specialize. I will specialize in oral surgery.
Yeah, and they make the most money. Yeah, they make the most money. I mean, it's a cash cow. I mean, basically, what I'm hearing Johnny say, that this is how he's sounding to me is, you have to convince someone to get bleaching, bonding, veneers. Like how many times, how long it would take for you to sell me on wearing a wig and getting Botox. I mean, you couldn't do it. But when someone comes in and they're in pain and they're holding their face and it's an emergency and all that, I mean, the average oral surgeon makes $448, periodontist $330, endo $307. In fact, when you come right out of oral surgery school, your base pay in Phoenix is $300,000, and I see these kids, and they couldn't get in a U.S. school, so they went to the Caribbean, and they got out of the Caribbean. they're an oral surgeon and their base pay is $350 because the people that hire the oral surgeons, that you need to legally be an oral surgeon. You know, you have to legally be an oral surgeon, and these kids give up so easily. They're like, well, I applied to ortho school. I applied to 7 of them and I didn't get accepted. Okay, you applied to 7 out of 14 in one country. Did you apply to one school in any other country? I mean, it's obviously harder to get in specialty school in the United States, Canada, Japan, and Korea than it is, 200 other countries. And so here's a guy who goes down the Caribbean. He gets in, and in the Caribbean, and then he comes back here. His base pay is $300. I mean, you know how many dentists that graduated in his class aren't making $300 now, and that's his base pay. So I'm pro. And by the way, Costa Rica, I do not recommend ever going to Costa Rica. I haven't been to Colombia, but every time I've ever gone to Costa Rica, I can't get on the airplane to go back home. I just want to stay there. In fact, when they look at your passport, I'm like, will you just keep it and kick me out of my own country? Because you're just coming back because of the guilt and the momentum, and you got kids and grandkids. But there's no good reason to not live in Costa Rica, and people go down those places. They become oral surgeons, periodontists, pediatric dentists, and they come back to Dallas, and a big old hospital, a big old DSO, a big old whatever, and they need a specialist, and they need an endodontist, and you're an endodontist. They don't ask what country you got trained in endodontics. Like all those Venezuelan orthodontists, I don't even need to hear about their school. You're an orthodontist from Venezuela. Interview's done. The rest of the interview is, are you a nice person? Will the staff like you? Are you toxic? Are you emotionally stable? Or can you talk to people? Or are we gonna drive a little bit faster to work because we can't wait to see you? And every time we see you, it's that same smile and giggle. Not we're walking on eggshells because you're toxic one day and nice the other day and crazy. It's just people skills. And so what on marketing? I see a huge gap between dogs like us of our age doing direct mail and billboards and stuff, and then the young kids who hate direct mail. They only do it on Instagram and Facebook. So for your marketing, are you a big Instagram, Facebook guy, or are you old school direct mail? What are you doing for marketing? What's working in Miami for you?
I'm more old school. The best things that work for me is my signage outside my office. I have a big electric sign on my office that light up at night, and in the street I have thousands of cars that drive by every day. So it doesn't cost me any money. So that's great for me. I also have some cars that have wrap with signs on the car, so we drive around Miami. Showing actually my own car, the car that I drive myself, have an advertisement on the back. I do social media, but I do it because they say you have to do it, but I haven't got any good results out of social media. I'm just doing it because my girls do it for me, and I think they're doing a great job. And what works very good for me is Google. I do Google pay-per-click for my dental emergencies, and I have a big return on investment, out of Google, for that advertisement.
What is a Google pay-per-click?
Google pay-per-click is you set a budget on Google AdWords, and you tell them the keywords that you want to use for your ad. Like I do it for the 24 hours.
Oh, did you say you're saying Google pay-per-click?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said paperclip, and I thought paperclip. Oh, pay-per-click. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Then you only pay if they click on your ad. If you don't click on your ad, people see it, but and when people click, it's because they need you. So they connect me to me right away. I don't use an answering machine. I don't use an answering service. I answer the phone myself. So once I get a call, I got a very high conversion rate.
True or false? Some people claim that dentistry confuses the marketplace down in Florida because you got DDSs and DMDs, and then the consumer's like, well, we know there's MDs and DOs and chiropractors and holistic, and there is a difference in curriculum between MDs and DOs. I mean, you can see it in the curriculum. DDS and DMD, I mean, even the ADA says there's no difference in curriculum. But do you think it confuses the Miami patient base when half the dentists have DDS and half, like, what are you? You're DDS, right?
I'm a DDS,
And
and
I'm DDS.
I believe there's a confusion. Some people, once in a while, they ask you, what's the difference between a DMD and DDS? And like you said, to me, it's exactly the same. It depends the school that you go to, what you have in your certificate, but it's exactly the same. And no, it doesn't create a confusion. People see us, at least in Miami, where there is a big Hispanic population. Dentist is a dentist. They don't even care if you're a DDS or a DMD.
So you don't really see it as an issue.
No,
It's not an issue. Okay, here's a big issue in the dental schools that it just never goes away. Dentistry, for some reason, it always attracts a lot of people who say, I don't like to sell. I don't like to sell. In fact, they do an exam on you, Johnny, and they find 8 cavities. They don't even want to tell you that they found 8 cavities because they think you're going to feel bad, and then they're going to feel bad. How do you coach a baby 25-year-old dentist that, look, they got 10 cavities. I don't want to go to the doctor. Could you imagine going to the doctor and says, well, I can't tell Howie that he's got lung cancer and testicular cancer and liver cancer, so I'm just going to tell him he just has liver. I mean, I would want to know. But what would you coach to these? Because they're adorable. I mean, they're just adorable. They're young. They didn't go to dental school to sell. They went to dental school to develop healing hands to get you out of pain. But come on, dude, you got 8 cavities. And if you don't sell this and they don't get it fixed and they go spend all their money on Disney World and an iPhone, well, now you're not even a good doctor. So how do you coach a young kid? And it's the same thing, Johnny, with business. They're like, well, I didn't go to dental school to be a business person and sell. I went to dental school to be a sacred nun or something. How do you get a mindset that, no, you're gonna put a businessman hat on, right, and you're gonna sell, and that patient is a customer. And if this is not a business and you're not gonna sell, you're actually gonna be a really bad doctor because no one's gonna get any of their disease fixed.
Right. Well, I'm a straight shooter, and what I do is they have to do a good diagnosis, and whatever they find, they have to inform the patients. I think they have the ethical, thing to tell the patients what they see when they recommend. And they also have to tell the patients what are the consequences for not fixing those problems. I tell them, okay, right now you have a cavity, but if you don't take care of it soon, it's going to become a root canal, and even worse, you're going to lose the tooth. So you better, and when you talk about the financial part, they say, well, I don't have the money to fix this. Well, you don't have the money to do a $200 filling now. You see, you're going to have the money to do a root canal that costs $1,000. So you're concerned about money. You got to do it right now because it's going to get more expensive and worse and more complex. And you get to the point that you cannot even, fix it. So all I do is just inform the patient. And then at the end, the patient makes the decision. But you have to give them all the information they can make a good decision about their treatment plan.
And if she didn't know a lot about business or wasn't good in business, how would you coach her to learn more about business?
Well, one of the things that I will coach them is, like, for example, to read books. Like, for example, like I say, I'm a big fan of you. I don't know if it's one of my favorite books. I have read this, a couple of times. I even have one of your first ones here.
Oh my God.
I read a lot of books. I take a lot of continuing education courses in practice management. Some people don't take those courses because they say, well, they don't give me credit. Who cares they give me credit? All I'm looking is for knowledge. I don't care about the credit. I got plenty of credits. So that's what I do. I read a lot. I take a lot of courses. I go to dental conventions and I listen to you. I go to Dental Town, I listen to Roger Levine, a lot of people that are very recognized on the profession for years, and that they know what they're talking about.
So, you and I have been doing this for 3 decades. The class that just came out, a lot of DSOs say that, when we were little, every pharmacist owned their own building and land, and now they all work for Walgreens and CVS. Do you think that's where dentistry is headed? Do you think in 30 years everyone's going to work for McDentals, Walgreens, and Sam's Club?
No, I disagree. I think there's going to be always people like me that like the independence of working for yourself and seeing also the potential that at the end of the day, you're going to make more money if you work for yourself besides working for somebody else. So, no, I think it's going to be, at least 50-50, but then they're not going to take over. They're not going to take over. And when it comes to the patients, the same. Some patients, yes, they do go to the DSO, to the big, you know, uh, quantity over quality, but there are a lot of people that recognize that keeping the same dentist for life is better for you and for your family.
So here's another big question I want you to weigh in on, and I remember we talked about this when we were in person. Is so they come out with $400,000 student loans. They think that's a lot, and then there's a practice over here that's say $650,000 that they want to buy, but that would be renting, and there's another one, but they would own the land and building, but it's like $1 million, and so they're like, do I save the money and rent? Or do I go long term and buy the land and building? What are your thoughts on renting over owning land and building?
Well, to me, it's always better to own. If you are at the right location and you have the right practice, but the location is even more important, you buy the building because then you control your future. I tell a little story about myself. When I opened my first practice, I was renting from a dentist, but I signed a 1-year lease. And after 1 year, I offered him to buy his practice. He didn't want to sell me. I said, well, I came here because I wanted to buy. So he kicked me out of his practice like a dog. He gave me a 30 days notice. I have to leave. I said, no more. From then on, I always purchase. I have purchased. I got like 7 commercial properties, and I always control my future because as long as I pay my taxes, nobody can kick me out. Rent, they can kick you out. They cannot renew your lease. They can increase your rent. You got more control about yourself, your future, and your overhead when you own.
When I talk to dentists and we pull them on Dental Town and say, what stresses you out the most? It's for 30 years, it's the winner. It's always a person. It's either the patient or the staff. It's people. We both know dentists. They seem to be more introvert, shy. They're more like a scientist or a physicist or a chemist. They're not, people stress them out. And it's either the patients or the staff. Patients, you don't know who's coming through your door, but your staff, you hired. And they always say, their staff drives them insane. What, having done this your whole life, give us some staff advice. What would you say to that dentist who's afraid of his own hygienist? He gets nauseous thinking about how do I keep my receptionist from fighting with my assistant? They won't do what I say. It just kills them. What advice would you say?
First of all, when I hire somebody, I hire more on their personality, their attitude, than on their experience. I don't care about experience. I can train them, but their attitude, I cannot change it. And I want people that have a thirst for knowledge, people that always want to learn new techniques and new procedures. So that's the time. And I want happy people because I spend, most of my time around my staff. My staff is like my family. And if I see somebody that doesn't meet those requirements, they have to go because a bad potato is going to make a lot of bad potatoes in your office.
So what do you what interview skills would you recommend that they can find better staff? I mean, what are you looking for in an interview where you think this person is going to be a better employee?
The first things I tell them, I put like the worst case scenario up front to see how they react. I tell, okay, I work 6 days a week, including evenings, and I know when I start, but I don't know when I finish. Are you willing to work weekends? Are you willing to stay here until we see the last patient to see what resistance they have? Okay, you may have to, I will give you some training, but you have to take some training on your own. I'll give you some reading, some videos to watch. Are you willing to do that? I see the stability. I don't want somebody that has been the last year, they have worked in 5 different places. I want somebody that have a stability, so potentially they can stay with me longer. That's what I look for. I want people that talk a lot, extroverts.
A lot of them think that the way they're going to be successful is to give everything away for free, don't charge anything, lowest price, 2 for 1, Groupon, coupon. What do you think of that growth strategy?
I don't like it at all. I'm very against it. That's one of the arguments that I have with some of my friends who are dentists. I don't like the way the profession is going in that way. I'm going to tell about Miami because the area that I know. Every week I receive in my house, advertisement from 5 different dentists, and every dentist is lower than the other. The way it's going on that way is like pretty soon you have to pay people to come to your office to do it for free. So no, I don't agree with that at all. And I think actually it degrades the profession. I think we went to school for 8 years. We invest a lot of money to go to school besides the time. And we have to be paid for our services because we're professionals. And we have to have enough self-esteem, to make sure that we get paid for that.
Another big heavy ticket item is equipment. I mean, they can come out of, Florida's got 3 dental schools: University of Florida in Gainesville, Nova Southeastern University, Fort Lauderdale, Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. That's what they call LECOM, Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine in Brandon, which is Tampa. They come out $400,000 in student loans. They're going to say, Johnny, look, if I buy a CERAC machine for $130, if I buy a Lenap laser Millennium, another $135, a CBCT, another, they can buy 3 pieces of equipment and they just double their student loan debt. So succinctly, I want to ask, I mean, is there major pieces of equipment that are 6 figures that you have to buy to be successful like you?
I buy basically what makes me money. There's a lot of gadgets out there that they're expensive, they're fancy, but they don't make you money. That's on my opinion. So I buy quality equipment because the equipment you want to buy quality, it lasts you a long time. Sometimes it lasts you all your career. But for example, a laser. I have a Picasso light. A Picasso light, I paid $3,500 for that. I wouldn't buy an $80,000 laser. Basically, I do the same thing. Soft tissue lasers. So that's one of the big difference. Of course, there are certain things like digital radiography that you need. I love my electric handpieces. I have an intraoral scanner, the iTero, that it was expensive, but I think it was money well spent and getting my return on investment out of that. But yes, you have to think what's going to make you money, what's not going to make you money.
And so you bought an iTero scanner?
Yes.
And was that because you were doing Invisalign or were you using it for Crown and Bridge?
Right now I'm using it for everything, but initially I bought it for Invisalign. The reason I bought it is because it have a mode that you can scan the person's teeth and do a virtual movements, and in 5 minutes they see the results. So it motivates the patient to go ahead with the treatment. That was the main reason I use it. And the other reason I use it because it saves you a little money when you send the cases to a lab. For example, I use Glidewell Laboratories. They charge you $20 less per crown when they do it digital, plus you save the impression material. So those were the main reasons. It's a market technique.
And what do you think? What do you think saves you in impression material? How much do you think that impression material would be?
The saving impression is on the crown is about $27. Between the lower cost of the crown and the impression material.
So you're saying the Glidewell charges you $20 less, and then you're saving $10 on impression material?
Yes.
And so you got to realize, why would Glidewell do that? Because if Glidewell doesn't do that, if you send in an impression, they have to port, a human has to port up and sewn, a human has to trim the dye, a human has all this labor, and Jim doesn't even like that because he's showing 1% remakes if it comes in on a scan, and 6% remakes if it comes on impression roll. I was just there for his 50th goal. By the way, he just survived COVID.
I know.
And 17 days. That poor man. The guy served in Vietnam War, and he said COVID was worse. Could you imagine? And I said, well, how do you describe Vietnam? And I mean, he just told me years ago it was a nightmare. And he said this was worse than Vietnam. I mean, guys, don't take this virus lightly. It's not, especially if you're older. You know what I mean? But anyway, they're showing 1% remakes on scans and 6% if it's an impression material. But I don't like saying that because I'm afraid a lot of dentists are going to say, you know, if you don't pack cord, cut a nice prep. I mean, if you can't get a good impergum impression with a temporary and crown and bridge, and a scanning's not going to make a lazy dentist highly disciplined. I mean, you still got to.
Secret. I don't remember the last time I used a cord to take an impression.
Because why, Gord? Because of the Picasso laser?
No, because I do most of my preparations at the gingival level or just about 1 millimeters of gingival, so I don't have the need for the cord.
Yeah. So you know, again, I don't think digital scan. Well, I know digital scanning isn't going to make a lazy, incomplete dentist high quality. But I do know if you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's, the digital scanning's better. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that.
So are you glad you bought the iTero, or?
I'm very glad, and also save me time because actually the one that scans the patient is the assistant. My dentist from Venezuela assistant is the one that scans it. So once I prepare the tooth, she does everything else.
Okay, now you tell her that if she moves to Phoenix, I'll pay for the U-Haul.
All right.
And by the way, shout out to my dental assistant, Christina. Today is her 18-year anniversary. Christina, thank you so much for 18 years of your life. That is an amazing compliment to our practice to have, you know, someone like that. I mean, you always talk about having a marketing that you need to differentiate yourself. You talk about working after hours and all that kind of stuff, but I've always thought the number one way to differentiate your place is where you go, where everybody knows your name. I mean, it seems like the number one complaint I get with the DSOs is, you know, they come in, they go, well, I went in there and the dentist said I needed 3 fillings. I went back and that dentist doesn't even work there anymore. Then this one dentist did one of the fillings and then I came back for the other 2 and now that one doesn't even there. I mean, you can't build faith and trust if every time I go there, it's a different place. And I think, you know, Christina staying there 18 years at our Today's Dental, that's a big reason why we're successful. I mean, there's just a lot of people that they just want to come in and see Christina. Or if I tell them they need 3 cavities and they don't know if that's true or not, they'll wait till I leave the room. Then they're going to turn to Christina and say, really, Chris, do I really need 3? You know, and I wish the Federal Reserve and the New York Stock Exchange, I wish they would up their game. I mean, they're always telling me the price, the earnings, you know, the difference between the 10Q quarterly and the 10K. You know, why don't you stop playing games and give me more measurements? I want to know how long the average employee has been in that industry, because it takes a lot of work to find out that Southwest Airlines employees work there longer than other airlines. I would want to, if I was going into a sector, I'd want to know how long the average employee has been there. And you can't keep people for 10, 20, 30 years if you're making them feel bad, hurting their customers, being a bad person. And there's just a lot of art and science. There's just a lot. It speaks volumes to the patient when they go in there and they've known Johnny for decades, and they've known your assistant, and they've known this. And compare that to a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, dental windmill, where it's just a rotating door. And it's the same in marketing. I've always noticed that the greatest companies were built in small towns where you couldn't market your way to success. You had to retain your patients. Like Sam Walton started Walmart in Bentonville. And some lady bought a pair of shoes and the heel fell off, and she brought him back. And Sam says, "Well, it's not my problem. I mean, it's not." And then after church, she told his wife Helen the story, and Helen told Sam, "Look, man, they're never coming back to you." So this town has gone from 5,000 people to 4,995. And last week it was this family for that. She goes, "You're going to run out of people." And so Sam started thinking, okay, because when you're in a big town, you can just keep advertising and getting new patients and televisions, and you can wham bam all you want in a big town like Phoenix with a 3.8 million metro, or Miami or whatever. But you can't. The best. So Sam was forced, and so the next time the guy came bought him shoes, he gave him the shoes bag and said, "No, you're going to eat these. I'm getting a refund from you." So Walmart was the one that pushed all the refunds up the supply chain. Sam said, "I'm not even going to ask him a question. 1% of our stuff gets refunded. I'm believing him, and it's my supplier's problem. And everything was made in America. This whole buying, 1% of China's MDA, that was Michael Glass after Sam Walton died. Read Sam Walton's autobiography. Hell, the name of the book's Made in America. Sam, it was, he'll refund anything you do. If you don't, if you come in and I make you a denture, I personally don't even think I should legally be allowed to make dentures because I actually hate them more than the patient. But anyway, give them their refunds, look them in the eye, shake their hands, trust them, keep your customers for life. And I see a lot better dentists in small town rural. It seems like the smaller the town, the better the dentists get because there's nowhere to hide. Right. But you could be a horrible dentist in Phoenix, and you could be a horrible Phoenix in South Phoenix and live in North Phoenix or East, West, or whatever, You could live clear across town. But, man, when you're in Beeville, Texas, where does a bad dentist hide? You know what I mean? They all know your name. And so I think – so besides staff, how would you and seeing emergencies, is that your main way of differentiating yourself versus your competitors?
I would say so, yes. I have no competition when it comes to dental emergencies because, like I say, I see the patient within the hour. A lot of people don't want to see anybody at all. And if they do, they say, I see you the next day. When you're in pain, you don't want to wait, or you cannot wait.
Yeah. I don't like to bring up religion, sex, politics, or violence, but Cuba now, I remember in dental school, I went to dental school with Cesar Sabatez.
I know, he's a friend of mine, very good guy.
Yeah, so I walk into dental school, and I've never thought for 3 seconds about, half the countries on earth. So for 4 years, I got to listen to Cesar Sabatez's rants about Cuba, and he basically, every thought in my head about Cuba came from Cesar. So if I ever say anything about Cuba and you think I'm wrong, you need to go tell Cesar, say, "Hey, your student Howie, you trained him wrong." But that whole era is gone. I can't believe we lived through that whole era and now it's over. Do you see light at the end of the tunnel for Cuba in the next? Are they going to get better faster, or is it going to be another 10, 20, 30, 40 years before they figure it out?
I don't see a good future for Cuba. The only way that I think Cuba will fall is Donald Trump gets reelected. I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Venezuela first. Venezuela is going to fall for sure. I put my money into that if Donald Trump is reelected. And once Cuba doesn't have the help from the oil from Venezuela, they will fall too. But unless that happens, no, I don't see any future for them.
No, is that a sad chapter of your life? Because that's your home for 21 years. What was it like at 21, leaving your country in exile to a strange country? I would think that would be very traumatic.
It was. I actually came in a boat during the Mariel boat lift. I got in a boat early in the morning, and I was here in the evening. And yes, it was traumatic. I had to leave everything behind. My house, some of my family members, and I even left my profession. I didn't tell you, but I went to dental school in Cuba, but I never graduated because if I graduated, they wouldn't let me out for 8 years. So for me, it was more important to leave the country than to get, my degree over there. So when I came here, I came, with no documents, nothing. So I even have to take a test for high school equivalence test because I didn't have any proof that I wasn't even in high school. So I had to take that. I went to Miami Dade, then University of Florida, and I have to do everything from the beginning because of that. Yeah, it was a big change for me.
Are you glad? Are you glad? Would you have done it again?
I will do it again. Yes, there is nothing like freedom. Yeah, I love this country. I don't even consider myself Cuba. I was born in Cuba. I consider myself American, and I would die for this country, but not for Cuba.
Yeah, I would die for Kansas and Arizona, but I'm not so sure about California. No, I'm just kidding. Bad joke. But hey, you've been a friend for a long time. Every time I have gone on a cruise down there, we've yeah, I see Miami is the cruise driver. My boys loved cruises. My God, they love cruises because you get to go to a different country, 3 or 4 different countries. You don't have to fly around. It's like your hotel goes from one country to another. And now COVID-19, some of those cruise lines have more deaths than some of the countries.
Yes.
You're in the cruise capital of the Americas. Is that industry dead on arrival, or are they going to come back to life?
It will come back. To me, the cruise is the best vacation you can take and have the most value. I love cruising. I used to go on cruises every year. Right now, yeah, there are a lot of problems, but it's going to come back because it's something that people like.
But what's the status of the cruise industry now?
Oh, it's terrible. There is no cruises at all. You can.
Oh, they didn't reopen back up when the economy opened?
They just postponed it until early October.
So you're thinking in 2 months the cruises are going to start up again?
That's the plan right now. It may change because it initially was at the beginning of September. They moved it to the end of September, and now it's in October. But yeah, eventually it's going to come back. And as soon as the vaccine is back, yeah, they will, start cruising again. And I'll be there. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. It's and the other, I just want to give you some cruise deal. When you're young, you're looking at the what's the best deal on the cruise. But before you ever go on a cruise, remember, get the age of the boat. I mean, when 2 people say, "Oh, I did this cruise to Hawaii," or I did this cruise to somewhere, yeah, and one went on a 1989 boat, and one went on a 2018 boat. That's not the same cruise.
I only go on new cruises.
What's that?
I only go on new cruises. Like I like to go on the cruise when it comes out for the first time.
I remember. You remember when 3M SB came out with Prompto Pop? So they had this big cruise. They brought on all the key opinion leaders were on this cruise, and everyone's just throwing up. Well, what they didn't even know, the people at Ivy Clare didn't even know, is that the new boats have like a wing underwater, a stabilizer.
They don't move at all.
They don't move at all. I mean, you could be in the middle of a thunderstorm and your water on the table doesn't even have a ripple. But you get some 1989. Same thing right now with the SARS. People don't realize that when SARS, one of the reasons America's getting kicked so bad on this deal, it's our first rodeo. I mean, Asia saw this virus in 2012. But, in America, whenever they talk about Ebola in Africa, they're like, well, this isn't Africa. Africa's on the other side of the world. You talked about SARS in 2012. They're like, well, that's Asia. What does that have to do with us? Well, you need to pay attention because it's just one world. So those like Boeing after 2012, they don't recirculate the air in the airplane. They blow that stuff out. But if you're flying on an airplane that's 2011 or 2010, so it's the incremental improvements. If you're going to go on a cruise, get the year of your boat. And if you're going to fly international, I'd want to get the year of the airplane. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to be flying on some 2010 Boeing that doesn't recirculate there. So, but man, I hope the cruises make it. And if they don't, then we'll just have to meet in Medina.
Right.
Is that your favorite spot in Colombia, Bogota or Medina? Where do you...
I like Medellin. Medellin, yes. To me, it's the best. I've been Medellin, Cartagena, Bogota, Pereira, almost everywhere, but I love Medellin.
All right. Well, you tell me when, and I'm going to lecture in Medellin with you.
Believe me, I'll make it happen.
Yeah, let's go there, and we'll each speak half a day, and we'll share our tips. And by the way, it's always an easy deal when you're in America because if you go to any country and you said you were from half the countries, it'd be challenging. But one of the things about when you're an American's known for healthcare, insurance, banking, financing, things like that. And my God, when an American goes and speaks to another country, it's the easiest dental draw. In fact, I get a lot of pushback where, we'll be at dinner or something. The guy will say, man, Howie, I get the best seminar ever. And you're speaking to 5 times as many people as I'm ever going to speak tomorrow, only because you're an American. So, they're all coming out of the woodwork to see the American. I remember when I lectured in Albania, half the room said they had never even heard an American lecture before. So I had this blowout crowd in Albania just because I was from America. So there's a big brand associated with American. So let's have 2 Americans go to Medina, and we'll lecture for 4 hours, then drink for 4 days.
Exactly. That's a good idea.
All right. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was really an honor to podcast interview you. And thank you so much for all you've done for dentistry. And I mean, you've volunteered so many hours in all the dental societies, Dade County, Miami. I mean, you've been so involved with the West Dade Dental Society. I mean, thank you for all that you've done for dentistry over all these years.
I love dentistry. It's my passion. I live for the profession. And thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here with you. Like I said, has been a follower of you, all your philosophy, and you have been a big thing on my success as a dentist because I like what you do. I like what you do. I think you're doing the right thing.
Well, Cesar Sabatez taught me everything I know, so you go buy him a beer in my name.
When I finish talking to you, I'm going to call him.
Okay. All right. Give him a big old Howie hug from UMKC, class of 1987.
All right.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.